Ever feel like you're on autopilot? Just going through the motions?
Totally.
We're tackling that today.
Yeah.
We're diving deep into self-reflection.
Love it.
And I know what you're thinking. Ugh, not another self-help lecture.
Right.
But trust me on this. This isn't about lighting incense and chanting affirmations. This is about unlocking some serious self-improvement.
Absolutely.
We're dissecting 5 practical tips. And, you actually requested we do a deep dive on this one, so clearly you're serious about leveling up your life.
Always.
I can respect that. So tip number 1, making time for self-reflection. And honestly, this one always gets me.
Tell me about it.
There's always something, right?
Mhm.
Work, kids, that never-ending to-do list.
It never stops, but that's exactly why carving out even just a few minutes each day is so crucial.
Seriously, a few minutes makes a difference.
It really does. Have you ever heard of that whole neuroplasticity thing?
Vaguely. It's like our brains can change, right?
Exactly. It's our brain's ability to adapt and rewire itself. Think of those few minutes of reflection as mini workouts for your self-awareness muscle.
Okay, I like that. So it's like training our brains to be more introspective, even if it's just for a few minutes at a time.
Exactly.
But I got to be honest, the idea of just sitting there thinking for 5 minutes sounds a little, boring.
Yeah, I get it.
Tip number 2 to the rescue, right? Asking those deep questions.
Now you're talking.
This is where things get interesting.
Yeah.
So what kind of questions are we talking about here? Because it can't just be, what should I have for dinner?
Definitely not. It's about digging deeper. It's about asking questions that make you think differently about yourself and your experiences. Things like, what was my biggest win this week? Or, what's one limiting belief that's holding me back?
Ah, I see. Those are good. Getting real with ourselves.
Exactly.
And that leads us perfectly into our next tip, journaling.
A classic for a reason.
Knew it. But I have to be honest, every time I try journaling, it just ends up being this random log of what I ate and who annoyed me. Not exactly deep self-reflection.
Right. It's easy to fall into that trap. But here's the thing. Journaling isn't just about recording events. It's about processing them. It's about diving into those deeper questions we talked about and exploring your thoughts and feelings on paper.
So it's not just what happened, but like how it made me feel and why.
Yeah. And think about it. Writing engages your brain differently than just thinking does.
Huh, interesting.
It forces you to slow down, clarify your thoughts, and sometimes even uncover emotions you didn't even realize were there.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's like a therapy session with my notebook.
Yeah.
Get behind that.
Exactly.
All right, so I've got dedicated time, thought-provoking questions, and journaling. What's next?
Now we're getting into the really juicy stuff, learning from the past.
Ooh, I love this one. It's all about turning those mistakes into valuable lessons.
Exactly. But it's not always easy to do, right? It's easy to get caught up in regret or self-blame.
Totally.
But there's this really cool technique called retrospective analysis.
Okay.
It basically means looking back on past experiences with a critical but objective eye.
How do we do that?
So instead of just replaying the event over and over, you ask yourself, what happened? What were my actions? What were the outcomes? And most importantly, what can I learn from this?
So instead of dwelling on what went wrong, I figure out why it went wrong and how I can avoid it in the future.
Exactly. You're essentially turning your past experiences into data points that can inform your future decisions.
I love that. Learning from our oops moments.
Precisely.
All right, last but certainly not least, and this one feels like a biggie, being honest with ourselves during self-reflection.
You hit the nail on the head. This is huge.
Because it's so easy to sugarcoat things, right?
Absolutely. It's way easier to focus on the positive and avoid the uncomfortable truths.
Right, but that's not really self-reflection then, is it?
Exactly. This is where self-compassion comes in. It's not about beating yourself up for your shortcomings. It's about approaching yourself with kindness and curiosity.
So be real, be honest, but don't be afraid to be kind to yourself.
Exactly. You've got to create a safe space for honest self-assessment.
This has been amazing. So many great takeaways. I feel like my self-reflection game is about to be seriously upgraded. Any final words of wisdom for our listeners before we wrap up?
Here's what I'd say. If you want to truly embrace self-reflection, pick one of these tips and commit to it this week.
Okay.
Just one. Even small, consistent actions can lead to incredible transformations.
Love it. You heard it here first.